Happy Friday, Bucks County. How's it going out there? I am bringing you today, Friday. It's a beautiful day out there, and I really am so excited to introduce to you this artist. And I met him accidentally. So I'm on a ton of groups in Facebook and Instagram and all over social media. That's what I do now. So I'm browsing through one of my Lambertville, New Jersey, my New Hope groups, and I see this post of this guy's artist, and I'm like, looking at his work, I'm like, oh my god, look at this, his beautiful artwork. He was talking about, doing the show, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, there's no shows out there, but there's this guy, Michael Liebner, and he's doing this a kind of self-promoted show here, and his artwork is incredible. And he was looking like, I was looking at his profile and everything, and it's like, wait a minute, I think he needs a little help. I'm gonna give him a push. I want to get him out there. I want to interview this guy. I want to put him on my podcast. I'm gonna put him on Bucks County Bytes, and I'm gonna promo this guy to get his work out there, to get his information on my podcast, to get it out into social media. So this is why I love doing this. I love doing this podcast. I never thought I would, but I love to talk, as we all know. And I love meeting new people. I'm an extrovert. I love doing this. So after I get done with this podcast with Michael, I'm going to send it out there in the world. Send it out in all the Facebook groups, Instagram, on my LinkedIn. It's going to get promoted to probably about 70,000 people or so. So I really hope that I can give him that extra push to get a little known, to sell a couple pieces of artwork. That's what the idea is. So people know and can see his website and everything else that he's all about. So I'm going to give a little bit of music in the background to this beautiful podcast we have, Bucks County Bytes. We're going to play some jazz today, and I'm going to call Michael in a little bit. In the meantime, enjoy the music. Okay, everybody, get ready. I'm going to give a call into Michael, and I know that he's home. We've actually talked a couple times already, but I'm going to call him in and see what he has to say. He's got a lot to talk about today in his art. Okay, give me just a few seconds here. Give him a call, and let's see what he's doing. Here we go. He should be picking up in a couple of seconds.
Hello, this is Michael.
Hey, Michael. This is Bucks County Bytes. This is Martha, and I know that you were expecting me to call you, so this is your big day. This is the podcast interview. So I did a little intro about you prior to the call. So everybody knows that I do these recordings and I mix everything together, and that you know that I was going to call and we're going to talk all about you. So this podcast is everything that you could talk about you, everything that you believe in, everything. And we're going to promote you. We're going to promote you all over the place. So don't be nervous, okay?
Okay.
All right, so everyone, this is Michael Liebner, and he's going to give us just a little intro to who he is and what he does. So, Michael, take it away.
Okay, well, first, thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure what you said in the intro, so I guess I'll just start
I explained,
more or less from the beginning.
So what I did is I explained a little bit of how I actually met you. I talked about how I met you on these Facebook groups, and I saw you on these posts, and I got really excited because I'm like, wow, this artist, he's got some great work. So it was kind of like a little intro of how I actually met you. So then you can actually introduce to the audience of who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, my name is Michael Lever. I'm born and raised in Bucks County, so I'm very local. I did move around a bit in my 20s, I guess, and early 30s. But then I came back to be near family and near my nieces and nephews as they grow up. So,
great.
Yeah, that family draw can be pretty strong.
So I think what you already surprised me at is that you said when you were in your 20s and 30s. I'm like, wait a minute, you look like, when I saw your picture, I thought you're like 21.
Oh, well, that's very sweet.
So
no,
that
I'm
I was like,
38.
Oh, wow, I would have never guessed that. When people will see your pictures and you'll just, no, you blow me away already. Okay, so you're in your 30s, you're going to be turning 40 in a couple years. So, and wow. All right, great. All right, keep going.
Sure, yeah. I was raised in a very artsy family, I guess you could say. A lot of music was in my family. Both of my parents were very good musicians and played multiple instruments with various degrees of professionalism. My father was in a couple working bands, way back in the day, back in the 80s.
What did he play?
And
what is his instruments that he played?
He was a guitarist and a bassist, and also a tubist.
Oh, wow.
Back in the day.
Interesting. Yeah. What about your mom?
Yeah, and then life and career took him different places.
Yeah,
and my mom was a very good flute and piccolo player.
Wow.
And I kind of sort of absorbed a love of marching band music because of her, which is kind of interesting. I guess we're all funny facets of the things that we pick up as we grow up.
Oh, yeah, we're all like that. Yeah, I come from my mother was a pianist. She was actually a grand pianist, and her parents were pianists. And that's where I got my musical, I grew up loving music and was able to play all these instruments. So yeah, you have something very similar, like your family is part of that musical, they've got that in their blood, and you grew up with it. And that's where you grow the love of it.
Yeah, and I consider it kind of a blessing to have grown up with it. I guess we all kind of do. There's rarely a person that doesn't enjoy music, at least listening to, right? We can all grow up listening to music and enjoying it. Yeah. And I think we're going to touch on this a little bit later, maybe, but getting your hands in doing the art, whether it's music or whatever, instills another level of appreciation in it. And having grown up with piano lessons and then playing guitar myself and a couple others, just really makes you love that. And
sure it does.
On another level, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what the thing does is when you're growing up with music and art, and it actually, and they've proven this in science, that it changes your brain, the way you learn and the way you remember. Music has a lot it's an intelligence, right? So we all know that if you have a child who's growing up around music and art, it actually helps them in everything else that they do in their lives. So yes, it's
That's
important to
wonderful.
be around music, grow up, and learn an instrument, because it's the way you're learning that changes everything you do in your life as you develop. So that's great. That's good to know that you grew up in such a wonderful family, and I hope that they love and appreciate everything that you create today. As long as your
My
parents
goodness, I
still
hope so.
are are they here in Bucks County? They're here with you then. You grew
Yes.
like you went back and you came back to family, so they're all here. Okay, good. That's great to know. Okay.
Yeah, so they were musical and artistic. My dad was a very good drawer, and my older sister was a very good painter, and just all that kind of swirls around you, and I guess you kind of just absorb a love for it
Sure.
as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've been there. I've been there, same thing. So that's good. That's good. So tell me, so you got a little bit of the background there of you and the family. Tell me about you going. Are you self-taught? Did you go to school for this? Like, where did you learn? Like, I've seen your artwork, and everybody else will see it too once everything is in the YouTube podcast. But and they'll see your website and everything. Where were you taught? Did you teach yourself? Did you go to school?
Well, it's kind of a mix of the two. So it's not a hard yes or no. It's a lot of self-taught when I was young, just I loved doodling and drawing and stuff like that, but not quite very good yet, And then in high school, I had a really good art teacher in high school that really just helped spark the love of making anything, really. Andrea Hafner was her name. I hope she doesn't mind me saying it, but she was
well, we might have to find her.
special.
We'll have to find her and put this post out there for her. She would love, she'd probably be flattered. I'm sure she would.
Yeah.
So she helped you along.
Yeah, and that was a long time ago, and I went then to one semester of art school.
Okay.
So truth be told, I was a little, I don't know what the word is, not misguided, but I was just a little wavering in my early college years, and so I only did one semester of art school and then transitioned over to music, and wasn't sure which path to take.
Oh,
but
interesting. Okay.
still learned a lot there, and I don't want to skip too far ahead, but then art became a hobby for a long time, just a thing that I did in very mildly in my free time, mostly just sketchbooks, honestly.
So you
a lot
just
of
kind
sketching,
of did it for
just
fun.
for yourself.
Yeah, sketching and having fun with it, and just kind of creating it and not thinking about, as far as a business. You just were having fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, never, rarely even showing anyone. We'd a couple artsy friends, we might, pass our sketchbooks back and forth and compare notes and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that too, yeah. It was always fun to do that. Yeah. So,
and then
that's good.
something about 10 years ago, one of my very best friends got into oil painting on his own, and he said, "Hey, didn't you do this back in the day?" I said, "Oh yeah, I did. I think I even still have some of my old oil paints. I hope they're not dried up yet." He said, "Can I come over? Can we do some of this together? And you can,
oh wow,
we can, take a closer look at that, and maybe give me some pointers or whatever." And I said, "Well, maybe, for whatever that's worth," but that was a long time ago. And that was about 10 years ago, and it just, that spark rekindled, hardcore.
Imagine. You hadn't done it in a long time, right? And all of a sudden...
I hadn't done it in a long time, yeah. I mean, it could have been 8 years or something since I had touched a paintbrush.
I bet you're thankful for that friend today, though. Because think about, you hadn't touched it in a while, and all of a sudden now you go back to it. It's like, it sparked something in you, right?
It did, yeah. I've always loved making things, but this particular avenue of creation just speaks to me, and it's just something about painting that just came back, and I guess the passion, and
yeah, it is a passion,
and yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
and then along the way, so a lot of that was self-taught, but then I have also taken video courses with a couple people that I admire, like professional artists, and then a couple master classes.
Tell me more about, so you did take, did you study under some certain people? Did you have influences? Like, who are your influences and who did you study with? since once you got back into it and you realized, like, I really love this. This is really a passion of mine. I'm going to keep going. So that's when you actually started to do work under some people.
Yeah, it starts to come from just finding a professional or whoever whose style speaks to you, I guess. Like I want to be able to create in that way, in that style. If I have a landscape artist that I really like, I want to be able to create landscapes in the way that he does, or still lifes the way that she does, or that sort of a thing. And it gives you kind of a signpost to follow. Not that you want to, maybe you shouldn't copy completely. It's nice to think that you'll find your own style someday, but that's not mandatory early on. Like, your style will come just by being you, but being able to say, I like how you did that, I want to figure that out. But figuring it out for yourself is so much slower than having a teacher. So all that time that I was, self-taught was a lot of learning something new, figuring something out, and then plateauing, and then maybe figuring out something else by doing a master's study, and then plateauing again. And I had invested in a couple videos by people who I thought were my inspirations at the time, my influences. The biggest influence is probably Casey Paw. He lives up in Brooklyn, and he's a contemporary. We're approximately the same age, but he's just been doing it way longer, and he's just awesome. And I bought some of his videos, and I also bought some by Jeremy Lipking, who's also just a fantastic, almost a household name. And the styles there are very similar, so it was that helped to fill in the gaps a lot. And I can blatantly see right around that year is where my work became, and I guess started to become what I would say, borderline professional, and things that I would start to really want to put out there. And it's just amazing how the right teaching, the right information can fill in those gaps.
That is so interesting. It's so amazing that person and those people that just kind of pushed you, and you came into your own art, your own way of influencing what you do, and you paint everything that you do. So just a little bit of influence was enough to change that. That's great. Yeah.
And it was inspiring enough to then I signed up for one of his Casey Baw's master classes, and I went up to Brooklyn last year.
So you went to Brooklyn last year, right before all the pandemic hit. Wow.
Yes, we're just about right before. It was last October. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you're so fortunate that you were able to do that before all this happened. Wow. That has this crisis at all, this pandemic, this craziness, has that changed any way that you paint, how you see, like when you're doing all your art, has it changed any way that you are creating?
Well, yeah, actually. I hadn't really thought of it, because painting is such a solitary task in general, right? You could make the mistake of locking yourself in your studio and just painting.
Yeah, especially since we've been locked in for so long. We're locked in for all this time.
Your brush work will get better. Your technique will get better, because all that is practice, right? But what are you trying to say?
Yes.
Your content will probably suffer if you just lock yourself in a room for a year. So
True.
I mean, I really don't even want to say the silver lining of the quarantine. It's hard to see a silver lining when there are so many people that suffer.
I know.
Personally, being locked in your space alone with your work cut down did give me more time to put brush to canvas, and
I'm sure it did.
That time led to this.
Oh, interesting. So it did have a little bit of an influence, because everybody's kind of locked in and they weren't going anywhere. So you were spending more time painting, being on the canvas or whatever medium that you're using. So that's interesting. And so you've seen a little bit of change maybe in what you were doing.
Yeah. With the solitude came more focus, But I think this year there's been a bit of melancholy in my work as well. I think we all just miss each other.
Oh my gosh, we need that. We do. We need the connections. We need the people. It's just what we do. We're social creatures. We need to be around people. And, you know, and it's going to show up in the way we make music, the way we paint, anything, the way we write, just everything that we do. That's what we do. So, yeah, I can imagine. We're social creatures, yeah. I mean, I admire your art so much. You know, I was looking at your website, I'm looking at your material, and it's just incredible. Like, there's a couple pieces that really just took me. I mean, the one that you painted, and I realize I know you don't have it available anymore. This Reflections on Mount Marcy. It was just something that drew me into this because of what's going on. It was in this scene, this mountainous, beautiful area of this girl, and she's just like inside. It's almost like solitude, and it just, because of what's going on, it's like I wanted to be there. I didn't want to be stuck in my house. I don't want to be stuck here. I want to be there where she is. So I have to have that painting. Even I have to get you to paint that again. I just love that piece. And there's a couple other pieces too, which we'll talk about when we're off the podcast here. But yeah, you have inspired me by your art, by what you do. You've inspired me because I write and I'm producing this, and it's made a difference in what I do. And I think that's how your painting can reflect to other people. And that's really, I really love the idea of your style. It's just a love that you have, and you can see it comes through your heart, and you're into it wholly. Your soul and your heart is into it. I can see it. I mean, I've myself went to school. I've studied art. I went to Moravian College, and I studied art there, and I had a lot of people teach me, and there is a couple of people that kind of like your style, and I was just drawn into that, so I love it. I absolutely love it. But you're just amazing. You're an amazing guy. I'm so happy that I met you the way I found you, so this is very cool. So I want you to talk a little bit about tell me a little bit about the importance of art in society, since we talk about this whole pandemic and this crisis. So how important is it? You tell me from what you see now. Tell me about the society. Tell me about art. How you see it.
Sure. Well, this is all going to be personal opinion, I suppose.
That's
but
fine,
it's I'll start with actually the antithesis of that is that it's very, very easy for the pragmatically leaning people to say we don't need art. You can't eat art, right?
Right.
I guess for some it may pay the bills, but it just sits on your wall. What's the point of a pretty picture, right? And I think it dishonors all of art and all of what we, I guess, could call culture by distilling it down to such a bare bones and simplistic description. Because and maybe this is my humble opinion, but what is there to live for without our culture?
Right.
I think once I said in a conversation like this, bread will feed your body, but art will feed your soul.
Oh, absolutely.
And like on a level one way of thinking, like, okay, a pretty picture can be uplifted. It can be
inspiring. Anything that you do, like you inspired me. You inspire other people. It's something that's needed. It's something that's been there for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, since the time of mankind, since the beginning of time, right? It's important.
Yeah. And you can look back, I'm not a historian, so dates are going to elude me, but a couple hundred years ago, classical and even Renaissance paintings were very religious-based, and they often told a story, or at least were depictions of a scene in a story. I actually was recently shown an artist, and it's brand new to me. His name, I had to write it down. His name is Mikhail Munkarsky, and that's Munkacsy, from the mid-1800s is when he was painting. And his style is like right in between the classicalists and the impressionists, and they're all religious scenes. I was shown these 3 large paintings of scenes from the last days of Jesus Christ, and they're full of people.
Oh yes,
and in the classical sense,
yeah.
And in the classical sense, that would go on a church wall probably. It would depict the scene, and it would be painted in a very nuts and bolts way. In my opinion, old classical paintings, they often look like the people are kind of cut out and glued into place. And this painter uses like impressionistic stylings where the shadows will disappear into the backgrounds, and it's a little looser.
Yeah.
The shape of the eye isn't completely outlined and things like that. Very, very reminiscent if you're familiar with Monet.
Yeah. Well, we studied all that in school, right?
But like 30 years before, yeah, or something like that. And so I was struck by. I even said, "Wow, all these faces! It's like I can read their minds." That's how well depicted their facial expressions are, and that the ability for it to suck you in and be intriguing is, you walk away with something to think about.
Yeah, and that's what art does to us.
Yeah, back in the day, it would have been a religious story, but our understanding of what art can be has spread out into. There was a movement called the aesthetics that just said art can just be art. It can just be a person chilling here. It can be 2 people just playing chess. There doesn't have to be a moral attached to it, and that opened up.
That's different, yes.
Yeah, and I suppose I'm accidentally influenced by that a lot, because I like the idea of narrative in paintings, but I'm trying to explore that. But my paintings are very open-ended. I think you can put your own story onto people. I just try to capture a mood.
Yeah, you do, and you absolutely capture a mood. That's what drew me to your painting, because I'm like, wait, because remember the one we talked earlier a couple days ago, and there was that one painting I found. It's like, it was kind of like this space, and then you have these colors, and it just kind of brings you into this. It was nothing particular, but it's like, it just drew me into it. And I forget what you titled it, and I might have to find it and put it into your podcast YouTube, because it was just, that was the other piece I definitely want to get from you. So it is,
okay.
Like I said, it is really incredible. But you think about everything on the internet today. People are creating that technology. You have art that you're creating on the computer, but there's still something about making that art with paint and canvas or panel or whatever you choose to paint on. I mean, you think about all the murals, everybody that's painting on walls, and the creativity is amazing that's out there. It really is. But,
even graffiti art. Not to promote vandalism, but what they can do with the can of spray paint.
Oh my gosh, it is incredible. It is. I've seen it.
And their canvas is a brick wall. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, I was out in Oregon a couple years ago, so I got to visit it's a very famous skateboard park out there. Okay, and one of the things that they do out there is they have this fantastic graffiti. I mean, it is artistic, but it's well known, and I'll have to put the name in there at some point. But my gosh, I was just like, I was blown away. I was blown away by the art. I mean, in Oregon, it's Seattle, tons of artists out there on the West Coast. It's incredible. It's just, love seeing it. I love seeing people the way they express it. So it's been around forever, and art's never going to go away. It's just things change with technology that we have, but there's just nothing the same as painting. I mean, that's why paint instead of doing it on a computer? Why take that paintbrush, those paints, the oils or watercolors that you choose? There's just something about it different than taking a photo, or different than creating art in a software program. Or you could just say, hey, I'm going to take my phone and take a picture, and I'm going to put filters on it. I'm going to change. It's not the same. I mean, I love it. I love all of it. But painting is just you get drawn into it. It's just creative, and I love doing it. I miss it myself. But
Yeah,
so
that's a really great point.
yeah.
Why paint versus photography?
Yeah.
We're kind of in the Venn diagram of our conversation. We're like at a little crossover point right here, because in one point I was going to say why the importance of art is also the connection between art and technology and how they can influence each other. And maybe we don't have time to get into examples, but it's a fascinating subject. If I ever had to write a doctorate dissertation or a book or something, that would probably be the topic that I would go on, how the camera.
That would be a long topic you would have.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Just the appearance of the camera changed the way painters had to paint. Now, it didn't have to be all representational. We have the camera for that. Now we can explore abstract and surreal ideas.
I know.
And those things may have happened anyway. I don't know if there was no camera, would we still have evolved?
True. Would we
those
have?
styles? I'm not sure. That would be an interesting
question.
side conversation. But I think the reason painting has stuck around in parallel with photography, and this is in no way a jab at photography. I also love photography, and it has its wonderful strengths. But there's something about like a painting in that like someone's hands made that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tactile thing. This is the one that their hands touch. There's a little something special about that, but there's also brushwork that the camera won't have.
Yeah, the camera doesn't have that, right?
Yeah, so you can use that as a part of your the way you express on the camera. And there's also something about the pigments of paint. This might be a little academic, I don't know, but
you just go with it. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
I love hearing about this.
There's a very popular use of pigments, use of paint in painting. You don't have to do this, but a lot of people have found benefit in using transparent dark colors and opaque light colors. I hope I'm not going to go too quickly for
No, you're fine.
Here, but I would say, I actually have a cup of coffee right here. This is a perfect example. Picture a cup of coffee, black, in a clear mug, right?
Right.
You hold it up to some light. It is dark, but the light passes through it, and you get some color, right?
Yeah,
and there's almost a little glow, right?
Right. I have
but
the
if
same
you put
thing.
Yeah. But if you put some cream in it, it'll be a lighter color, and no longer does the light pass through it, but the light bounces off of it and then back at you. So if you were to put a cup of coffee black next to a cup of coffee with cream in it, you've got transparent darks and opaque lights.
Interesting way of looking at it.
I'm hoping that's a metaphor that can at least translate the idea well to any listeners that aren't familiar with what the heck this guy's talking about. But we can use that then as a trick to have more interest in the painting, and that's really the point, is like, if all these skills that we try to learn as a painter is really just to convey your message, because art distilled down is really just communication, and in the most interesting way possible. So part of learning the craft is honing all these different techniques so that you can use them together in a meaningful way to make something that is just so interesting I can't look away. And that can be with composition, with brushwork, with these transparent darks and opaque lights.
Wow.
And then the way you use them in your own combination becomes your personal style. And that's something that, you can... Thanks.
Yeah. No, the way you're explaining everything, I'm like, wow, you should think about it. You're an artist, but you could also teach. That'd be great. Oh, wow. Never thought of it. I never thought of it the way you're explaining that. Huh. And this, what about, like, you think about everything, those pigments, and then what about the smell of the paint, too? I mean, everything that you do, you feel it, you touch it, there's the smell of it. It's just something about just getting out there and painting. and just expressing what's, coming through your body, what's flowing, the flow out to the paintbrush, out onto the paint, and into the board. I used to paint on a lot of panel and actually wood. That was different. It just showed the way your paint strokes would come across. Very different feel. But wow, that's oh my gosh, it's incredible everything that you know. I mean, you're highly intelligent. As an artist, you have so much to talk about, so much to say. And speaking of teaching, as far as the schools today, I mean, even from grade school going up into college levels, what do you think has changed? Or are they trying to get rid of the programs today and like getting rid of the art and the music in schools? Or do you think they should find different ways of teaching the different theories? What would you do if you could change things today in the schools, from whether it's grade level up through high school up into the college years? What do you think they could do better as teaching? Things that they could change, bringing different programs in. I mean,
that's a big question. I think the trend is still cutting of art programs and music.
They still are trying to cut those programs, aren't they?
Okay. Yeah. I think so. I'd have to check to be sure. It's been a little while since I've read anything about that, but it seems to be, and I just find that a tragedy, I guess.
It is.
I don't know if that's
Remember we talked earlier that we need that music, we need that art, because it does help as far as teaching and remembering, and it does help the brain. As far as science knows, we can make a lot of changes in kids. They need it. I mean, think about autistic kids. Anybody, they need those programs. And if they're cutting those programs, it's a sin, it's a shame that they would. I mean, they're cutting budgets. But if you had the choice and they weren't cutting budgets, what could they do to improve on the education system within art and the music industry in there? I mean, what would you do that you could improve it? What would you say to a school board? Say, hey, I want to help make some changes here. This is what we can do to help. I know you talked about the, what can they do to improve? Like talk about color theory, composition, and that sorts.
Well, I do have a few very specific topics that I wish were taught more cohesively early on, and it's not just meant to be academic, or even geared towards people who want to paint. These things can be applicable to just people who appreciate art, but don't necessarily have any interest in doing it. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't have an artistic bone in my body." Well, I would beg you for 15 minutes. Or maybe an hour, and we could maybe find out if that's true, because I think really you're just lacking proper teaching and practice.
That's true.
But that is something that people say. But, you don't even have to do art to appreciate it. You don't have to make movies and be a director to appreciate a movie, right? Like,
right.
Whether you liked it or not. You're inherently a critic, whether you see yourself as well versed enough to be able to have a podcast that reviews movies or not, or something like that. But everyone knows whether they liked something or not, and a broader understanding of what goes into making movies or making art just builds on that ability to appreciate movies and see things in them, whether it's symbolism or the use of color in movies can be used to convey. The use of composition, I'm trying to explore this in my painting, especially in the ones that I'm trying to do that are more narrative. The use of composition can invoke certain feelings, and you can even allude to a previous painting with a similar composition, may even speak through this one. It's hard to do without looking like you're just straight up borrowing, but it's an interesting concept. But a lot of people have heard of the rule of thirds. That's probably like the first day of any composition course or book that you might try to pick up, and it's awesome. It's like 90% of what you're going to do. For anyone who's listening that doesn't know the rule of thirds, if you're taking a photograph, don't put your subject right in the smack center. That's a little bit boring. Put them off to the side.
People do that though. They still do it, but that's one thing you will learn. Don't put it in the center. Absolutely.
Yeah, and there will always be reasons to break these rules. That's fine. Learn the rules to know when it's the right time to break them. It's kind of like jazz or something like that.
Right.
But the next step, a lot of people love to talk about the golden ratio. If you're just talking about the golden ratio in terms of placement in the frame or on the canvas, it's very similar to the rule of thirds, but people also like to pull in the Fibonacci spiral, which a lot of classical artists or Renaissance artists tried to pull in. And that's cool, but there's so much more than just placement. There's like directional lines that can make subjects in your piece or objects in your piece kind of, I guess, talk to each other,
right.
And they guide the eye around. And the more cohesive directional lines you have, the longer the viewer will be interested in it. They can be used. Directional lines can be all sorts of things. It can be, a person's posture or a branch of a tree.
Right.
And they can guide the eye around. They can also make a painting feel, or any photo, feel very stable or feel very full of movement.
Oh yes, it can. Yes, and that would be really important that they could teach. I mean, in these classes, in these courses, especially at grade level, they could bring that in. Those are the things that would be important, very important.
Yeah. And then another step after that would be, I would say, color theory is important.
Oh, that's important.
It ties in through composition because you can use one trick I like to use. I'll just throw it out there, a little secret. Go ahead and steal it. If there is a focal point on the canvas, I like to try to have, if it makes sense in the piece, the highest contrast, the brightest bright or the darkest dark to be like right around there. That's often very nice. Directional lines pointing towards it is traditional use of that. You can also use opposing colors in that area. It's kind of funny. Like we all learn in like kindergarten, the color wheel. I think like red and green are complementary colors, blue and orange, yellow and purple, right?
You learn
and then it feels like it just kind of stops there. Yeah. And what do you do with that? Well, the reason they're complementary is that one color holds its complement in the other, for example. So like all the frequencies that red is missing are in green, things like that. So if I, it is the reason why a lot of action movie posters have blue and orange. Skin tones are always a shade of orange. So if you slap some blue in the background, it's going to look very dynamic.
Right.
And that's awesome. That's why it's so popular. But you can use those in other ways. You can use green and red and yellow and purple to kind of complement each other. And then you can mix those in other very interesting ways that are probably getting a little too specific for this content.
Yeah, no, that would be something that, like I said, you would make a great teacher. Let me tell you, you should think about all right, you're making art, but you also could maybe get in there and have your own studio and actually teach. That would be great. I mean, maybe after this pandemic is over, it's something to think about for sure. Speaking of galleries and festivals and shows and everything, there's something that you have created here in Bucks County, and I want you to talk about this because this is really really important too, because you created a show. You did your own. You're doing a solo show, right?
That's correct. Yeah, self-produced solo art show.
During this
you asked earlier,
this crisis, done this.
What did the coronavirus affect me as? And one of the biggest ways it's affected me and many other people is that every single art festival that I signed up to be a part of this year canceled.
Everything is canceled.
Everything.
Oh,
yeah.
So
if you're local to,
horrible.
Yeah. if you're local to Bucks County and Doylestown, it's the Doylestown Arts Festival.
I know. It's
Very
canceled.
exciting weekend. I've loved participating in it. I've only been in it a few times, but I've been to it many, many times.
Oh,
and
so is tens
so
of
much fun.
thousands of people from the tri-state. I mean, they come from all over.
Exactly.
New York, New Jersey, PA, from all over. Because everybody loves Doylestown. They all come here for that. And now it's canceled. I mean, New Hope. I mean, everybody loves New Hope. They love Lambertville. They love this whole area. That's what we're known for. We're known for the shops and the art and the music. And they love this county. And now it's all canceled. It's devastating to hear this. But you're able to figure a way to actually create a show. And that's, you need to tell me how you did this. How did you even come up with the idea and then try to get it out there and have it approved to do it?
Sure.
That must have been a lot of work.
It was a fair amount. A lot of legwork, like scouting out a location, mainly was the hardest part. The coronavirus brought all those festivals to a halt. It also, for example, a gallery I was in communication with up in New York City, the Paul Booth Gallery, was. We hadn't arranged anything yet, but it was just a soft conversation about like, oh yeah, I like what you're doing, let's converse. And then like early on, I mean, I think it was like April or something, they just decided to close doors.
Oh, wow.
And their announcement was that they'll be back and they'll find a new space, maybe next year or the one after, when things, have stabilized.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we'll talk then, but it just kind of was like, oh, okay. Like I really thought we had a good thing going there, even though it was very early on. Maybe something would have come out of that. And
Sure.
With festival after festival announcing their closing, and I was kind of holding out that things would stabilize before September, but they have to make their decision months in advance because there's so much preparatory work.
Yeah,
so sometime
sure
in the
is.
summertime, that the Doylestown Arts Festival made their declaration, that I said, all right, well, I've had this, this art show. I've had this collection as a vision for a while now. I did a couple test pieces last year, and this was the goal that I was working towards, was to have kind of a theme, the collection. And what do I do with it now? They're all just in my apartment here, and I thought, well, is there a way to put together what could have been up in New York, or what would be in my tent at the festivals? Is there a way to just put that on myself? It would have been impossible if we still had the businesses shut down and things like that. But I did some scouting around, and I found a couple people with open spaces. A lot of
incredible. Commercial
spaces have, the business inside is either shut down or they happen to have just an open space. And I put out the discussion for them. But I realized that it's really hard for any landlord or property manager to commit to a month or two with with me, when, several months in advance, when they could have, a year-long lease or a 5-year lease show up in their hands. Sure. That's their real goal. So how can they commit, to my little project when their target isn't anything? And I was actually introduced to a place called Caravan Event Space in Lambertville, and that is what they do. Actually, they rent their space out to, like, for a yoga retreat or a business conference. That's what they do. Yeah, so they're used to like a couple days here and there. Is what I gather. They're used to like smaller arrangements. Okay. But they were like, well, of course we should talk, and they saw my paintings, and I guess they seemed to like them, and this was at the end of my process too. Like I started thinking like, okay, plan A might just not work. Time to think about plan B, maybe something in 2021, maybe spring, maybe galleries will be opening back up again. I'll just start communicating with them. I'll get by. I'm not worried, but I really want to get this out there. I want to share it, and I kind of want to start my next project. So this space came to me or was shown to me, and then I approached them about it, and we landed on the details, and it's just been pretty much happening ever since then. I'm self-promoting, so I'm blessed that you found me, and we can do a little.
Oh, I'm so happy that I found you, because this solo show with the Caravan Art Space, right? And so Caravan's in Lambertville, am I correct? That's where it's at.
That's right. Yeah. Okay,
so what we're gonna do, since this is going to go to all our groups, all our Bucks County groups that are out there, Doylestown, Lambertville, wherever, I'm in a ton of them. So this podcast will go out there, and we're going to have the links in there. The links will be also in the YouTube. This will all get shared, and at least people will know that you have your show, and you did a lot of work to get this out there, and it's one of the very few that are actually out there, because everything's been canceled. So to go
so
out.
This is the plug portion of
wow.
the podcast, right? Yeah.
Yeah. This
so it's called Stolen Moments, and it's all about exploring solitude and intimacy and what that means. So it is kind of fitting, although that wasn't planned for this time.
It's amazing.
With the quarantine and all that. It's about 30 unique pieces.
Wow, you have 30 pieces going out in the show. Oh, and this artwork that I'm not going to show it on the podcast. You can't see it on a podcast, but you can see it on the podcast YouTube. But I'm not using those pieces. I'm using some pieces that you've had previously, so people will be able to see some of it. What you do. And they can go out to the show, because I'm going to have that link out there. You're going to have your website on there, your contact info, your Instagram. And if, I believe you sent me the Caravan Art Space, the address to where this show is, right? I think you sent it to me. If not, you can make sure I have it. And then I'll also put that in there when I do these posts. And then I'll do the promo. So that promotion will have that information in there too. So that's what's
Thank
really
you so much.
Yeah,
for
that's going to be
great.
I mean, I'm excited.
And I'll also have all the details on my website if there's a link to that.
Okay, so that's exciting to see that you actually are getting people out to see, because people miss this. It's not there. And now you're having a show where people can go see artwork. And that's going to be great for you. I'm so happy this took place. I'm so happy I found you.
That's really cool.
It was just a sheer coincidence. So I get out there and I'm looking at everything. I'm like, it just saw you post something. I'm like, who is this? Oh wait, this is gonna. Oh, I'm gonna love this, because he's gonna love it, because I love getting some promotion out here for your artwork for your show. So and as long as all of Bucks County, some of the Bucks County groups, some of them are kind of, they might let me put it in. That has to be approved by an administrator, but most of them will.
Sure.
There may be one or two that will say, nope, it's not allowed. But that's okay, because I know a lot of the New Jersey groups will allow me to do it. So you're good. And in fact, there's a Mercer County group I'm in. I'll put it up there, in Mercer, and as many as I can. Okay. And the podcast YouTube should be done by tonight and be posted for tomorrow, and then it'll go out for the weekend. So people will see that. And once you have the links, I'll send them to you. You can send them to your friends. It'll get out there. You'll be seen. Trust me. It's a great moment to help somebody in business. That's what I'm here for, to help others. That's the idea.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, I was really touched that you reached out to me. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm touched that you accepted. And we will talk about that art piece that you did. I know you can probably reproduce it, but we'll talk about that when we get all this work done here. I will definitely give a call and we'll talk about that piece on the Mount Marcy. Okay?
Okay, you got it.
All right. Michael, you have a great weekend. Be safe out there. Keep painting.
You as well.
Paint as much as you can, because people need you. Absolutely.
Okay, you
All
got
right.
it.
You
Thank
take care. You have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon. Take care. All right. Bye-bye. Everybody, I hope that you enjoyed our show with Michael, and I will have all those links out there. Everything is going to be in the podcast. Everything will be in the YouTube. And I want everybody just to go out and see his show. I mean, he's done something incredible. He's put this solo show together where you can go see his art. And I've seen it, and you will too, and it is really, really incredible. He really has captured the moment and in this upcoming show. I am going to sign off for now until next time. This is Bucks County Bytes, over and out. Enjoy, everyone.